to introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Nelson. I am the Executive Director of the North Country Workforce Development Board. And what we do is we oversee workforce development in 4 counties in the North Country. So it's Clinton, Essex, Franklin, and Hamilton County. And part of our work is working with businesses to bring them some trained workforce. And one of the things that we find very valuable that a lot of businesses are not always aware of is that there's some apprenticeship programs by the state of New York that could be beneficial to some of our industries in the region. And hospitality being a huge industry in the North Country, especially if you're looking at, Southern Franklin County, Essex County, part of Clinton County, and definitely Hamilton County. We thought it would be a good opportunity to bring some information about housekeeping apprenticeships that have been developed. And we have, one of our very close friends, Mary Ellen Cook with the Akwesasne Mohawk Casino and Resort, who has had the opportunity to develop a housekeeping apprenticeship. And then we also have some representation from SUNY Mohawk, who kind of handle apprenticeship on the SUNY side, as well as New York State Department of Labor, who administers the apprenticeship programs for the state of New York. So having said that, and welcoming you today, and thanking you specifically for your time, I'd like to take a moment to kind of go around and make sure that you know who's around the table so that you can refer back to them after should you need to. So I'm going to start with you, Matt, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Cook.
Oh, Mary Ellen, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Cook, and I am from the Akwesasne Mohawk Casino Resort. Been an employee for going on 18 years, and we are really excited to just be finishing up our housekeeping apprenticeship program. So I'm looking forward to telling you all about it.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Matt, if you don't mind.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Malloy. I'm with Mohawk Valley Community College. MVCC is one of the 2 fiscal leads for the SUNY apprenticeship program, along with Schenectady Community College. And I'll be talking about the funding that's available for related instruction piece of apprenticeships.
Oh, I can't handle my mute button. I apologize. I'm telling you, this should be a Monday, but so Leif, go ahead if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Leif Sagas. I'm from the New York State Department of Labor. I work in the Apprenticeship Training Central Office in Albany. And I think everybody on here, most folks so far, we've been on a couple of other roundtables, but my work is primarily with developing occupations and trades for apprenticeability in the state of New York, among other things. So thank you for the invite. Happy to, I'm looking forward, especially to hearing Mary Ellen talk at length about the group of apprentices that are just completing or just completed at Akwesasne. Thank you.
Thanks, Leif. Another person on our team is Matt. It's one of those days. Were you able to introduce yourself yet? Because I thought I had.
I did, yes. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's going to be one of those days. So from our team, we have Gabrielle, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Gabrielle. I'm the executive admin and marketing, and I kind of gathered everybody here today. If you guys have any questions and want to follow up with me, feel free to reach out via email or give me a call.
Thanks, Gabrielle. We have also Jordan.
Hello, folks. Jordan LeBlanc, the new grants coordinator here at the Workforce Development Board. And my main role right now is, aside from administering our grants, ooh, there I am, is really just trying to get my finger on the pulse of workforce development here in the North Country and how we can continue to support and obtain funding to better support it. So I'm just here to kind of observe and listen and to get to know you all.
Thanks. And then we have some of our participants today. Thank you so much for joining us. Julie, if you want to start.
Hi, good morning. Julie Kramer, General Manager, CFO of Nine Plat Hospitality Group, Best Western Plus. Been here 19 years in a few weeks and looking forward to learning about this program as we have such a employee shortage. So I'm interested to see, and thank you for putting this together.
Well, thanks for attending. And Mallory.
Hi, I'm Mallory Leonard. I'm the Employee Relations Director at Pine Harbor Assisted Living, and I know Julie just spoke about the staffing shortage currently in the North Country. So I'm just here to kind of learn a little bit about what kind of opportunities are out there to partner with other organizations.
Perfect. So thank you for taking the time to introduce yourselves. And we're going to take it from there. We're going to take a look at why perhaps you should look at having an apprenticeship specifically for housekeeping. And Leif, if you can go ahead and talk about what the state does and how it works.
Sure. So I know there was a PowerPoint presentation that we had used before. We don't need to use it. I know we mentioned that we might be doing a screen share. Is that happening or no?
If one of you has the PowerPoint, everyone has the ability to share their screen.
Okay. And if not, I can just excuse me, I can just dive in. It's fine. Is Sarah Wilson Sparrow going to be joining? Is she supposed to be joining us at all? I know she's on the agenda, but
Yeah, no, I don't think she'll be joining us,
okay,
unfortunately.
okay.
But we can share all the information afterwards with the group, with the attendees.
Yeah, I mean, we could give you, I'll give you a quick, 30,000 foot view, right? Essentially, New York State runs what is considered a registered apprenticeship, which means that it's a formal recognition of a workforce development training program in place at your workplace. The difference between an informal apprenticeship, which people have run forever, is that this, if you're registered, you're going to wind up with access to standardized curriculum, technical assistance, and then completion of a registered apprenticeship yields a certificate of completion in the particular occupation that you've trained your worker or workers in. So plain and simple, an apprenticeship is a combination of structured on-the-job training and related instruction, which can occur remotely, in class, at a vendor's place of business, you name it. There's any number of ways that you can acquire related instruction. So in the case of housekeeping, there's also, just again, with the sort of like the fundamental components, each apprenticeable occupation in New York State operates off what we call the standard training outline. So I think everybody got that in the email from Gabrielle. So I'll just sort of refer briefly to that document. So Appendix A of any of our standard training outlines is composed of the work processes that make up the on-the-job training component of an actual registered apprenticeship. Appendix B is the list of topics that an apprentice is required to receive instruction in that complement and supplement what they've learned on the job. The housekeeping occupation presently is, you'll see a parenthetic underneath the title called, it says time-based. This is sort of the tried and true method of apprenticeship. This is the kind of apprenticeship that I went through and completed. You complete a certain number of on-the-job training hours. You complete the requisite related instruction hours. It's documented. You submit documentation that you have completed both those portions of the program, and then you're then issued a certificate of completion. We used to like to tell people that it was a portable credential, but that doesn't help employers who want to train people and keep them. So really, it's a credential with value, right? I mean, I have a bachelor's degree and a certificate of completion from an apprenticeship. The certificate of completion from apprenticeship is hanging in my office. So it's equivalent in a lot of respects to a bachelor's degree or a degree of any kind. It's that formal a program. Doesn't mean that there's a lot of hoops and a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of things to handle. It's just a very straightforward way of formalizing the training of your workforce. And it's a method that's been in place for millennia. And I happen to drink the Kool-Aid. I love it. I think it's a great way to train and keep people. But I don't want to steal Mary Ellen's thunder by talking about how great apprenticeship is. But so you've got this standard training outline that you work from, right? On-the-job training, related instruction, where the state comes in addition to sort of formalizing a relationship between you as a sponsor and us as a state agency. What we also do is we monitor programs, and really Mary Ellen can speak to that too. It's a very non-invasive relationship, but it's a very important relationship. Our apprenticeship training representatives take great pride in developing, if it's a small program, they may know every apprentice that ever goes through your program. If it's a large program, meaning let's say you own 600 hotels, there's probably at least 600 hotels in the North Country. There's probably 600 in Lake George. But so if you owned 600 and had 600 apprentices, we would still talk to a representative sampling of your entire cohort of apprentices. It's one of the things that differentiates New York State Registered Apprenticeship from a lot of other states and also from U.S. Department of Labor. It sets us apart in the best way because we have contact with both you as the sponsor and with your apprentices. And really what we're looking to verify is that your training program is in fact a training program. It's not just something that exists in name only, right? For the credential to have value, we really have to ensure that your apprentices are being trained in the on-the-job training skills that are required to learn that occupation. And it's also very important that we ensure they receive the related instruction, which builds on what they've learned on the job. So I don't know if there are outstanding questions. If anybody wants to ask them now, Julie or Mallory, we can hold them till later. I can just give you a quick synopsis of the program application itself, right? Because in addition to the wonderfulness that is apprenticeship, there is an actual form and that you have, number of forms that you have to fill out. It's approximately 7 pages in length. What I like to tell people is that really what we're asking for is information that's going to help us determine whether, you're a decent employer. If you're in compliance with the laws that require, that you're required to be in compliance with in New York State, you don't have anything to worry about, right? We don't ask for blood samples. We don't ask you to name your children after governors, sitting or former. It's very basic stuff, right? So that I think is in a nutshell is what registered apprenticeship is in New York State. We have approximately 900. I think we have at least 900 active programs and well over 600 sponsors. A sponsor could have multiple programs. For instance, Akwesasne at one point, I think, had 4 programs, single sponsor, 4 programs. And I think we are now approaching upwards of 18,000 apprentices. 85% of them are probably in the building and construction trades. But thanks to things like housekeeping and IT trades, et cetera, that we never had before, we're branching out into virtually every industry in the state. I think we might even be getting into the recreational or, the medicinal marijuana industry at some point too, which is like the latest, greatest, right? Geothermal, offshore wind. So we try and keep abreast of all the stuff that's going on in the workforce. But I'll turn it back over to Sylvie, if you want, or if you want to take questions now, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has questions right now while they're fresh into your mind, just go ahead. I think that'd be a good time.
Sylvia, you're muted.
I swear, this is not a good day. Oh my God, I apologize. Usually I'm not that like scatterbrained, but oh well.
It's okay. It happens to everyone.
So I was telling myself, it turns out, that if you guys have any questions for Leif at this time, would be a great opportunity to ask them since they're fresh in your mind. And if not, we can always you know, take them later. So if you have questions for Leif, go ahead. Okay, so I guess not. So if something pops up, there's always time later in at the end of the presentation. So we're going to move forward to Mary Ellen, who has, as Leif mentioned, through the Akwesasne Mohawk Casino and Resort, they have a few apprenticeship, one of them being housekeeping, but then they also have one in the distillery and craft beverage industry as well. So so they're very well-rounded in the process and can definitely you know, probably will help you understand from a business perspective what it takes to implement an apprenticeship. So go ahead, Mary Ellen. Now you're muted.
Welcome, everybody. Yes, we have had apprenticeships over the last, I don't know, probably 10 years or so. We started with more traditional ones like electrical, HVAC. So we've had a number of people go through those programs. And we haven't started the brewery one. We're looking to do that, but we are just in the final, we've completed the housekeeping apprenticeship. We started with 8 employees pre-COVID. And of course, we shut down and had layoffs, brought everybody back. We have just celebrated at the end of August, it was our 1-year reopening anniversary. So we've been back in business a year. And the housekeeping apprentices were able to continue on and complete. So we had 4 complete the program. So we're super excited about that, given everything that happened. And obviously would have liked all 8, but given the circumstances, we're super excited about 4. From a business perspective, getting the paperwork going does take a little dedication, but once you know, it becomes easier the more programs you put in place. So do find that. I'm actually going to be taking on that. Sheila King, she's the HR director. She had been doing that. And now I'm going to be taking on that role as well. I've been the training manager, so that's been my main involvement with the apprenticeship programs. We put together our training following the guidelines, and we did ours all internally, but I do want to give a shout out to the SUNY program for our future apprenticeships. We probably will be taking advantage of those programs as well. But with this particular one, we did not use that. We did it internally. So we have an online training management system. We create our own online training. And as with most apprentices, a lot of the work is hands-on. We have an advantage here in that we have, we've got 2 kind of housekeeping departments. So we have casino housekeeping and hotel housekeeping. Basically, they don't intermingle as much, but it was a great having those 2 programs for our apprentices because they were able to be in both programs. They were able to work on the casino side, and with COVID, their role was suddenly elevated far above how things were in the past. We had those, they looked like, I'm trying to think, Ghostbusters. They had the backpacks on and they got the guns and they're cleaning and they were learning all of that. all the proper protocols for COVID cleaning. So actually our apprentices got a lot more than we ever anticipated they would be doing. We do clean the machines throughout the day by hand, and then at night, we are closed at night, which we never had been in the past. And they come through with the 360 sprayers and clean at night. On the hotel side, we obviously had to put a lot more things in place with COVID. So again, our apprentices got a lot more than we originally anticipated. So happy for them. They got a lot of good skills and really can go anywhere. The nice thing I heard several people mention retention and hiring. The 4 going through the program, they were not interested in leaving at all because they knew they had a goal in mind and a reward at the end of their program. And so that's one of the great things about apprenticeships is while they're in the apprenticeship program, a lot of people that find that a great reason to stick around. And then when they graduate from the program, we still have all 4 of our graduates. They're more elevated than they were before. They received a pay raise. They're in line to be a supervisor or a manager because of gone through the apprenticeship. So they see a career path for themselves that may not have seen before or may not thought was available. Typically, our housekeeping staff we don't have a ton of people with bachelor's degrees in our housekeeping staff, let's put it that way. So typically we have GEDs and high school diplomas only. And this gives a great career path for someone who entered the workforce right from high school or got their GED and entered the workforce and may not have had picked up some of the other college skills that we think of. So this way, there's a great career path, and we have other ones too, of course, in our food and beverage department when we're looking toward that as well. So that helps people want to stay as they can see a career for themselves, not just a job. And so we're excited and proud of that. I noticed all our apprentices, I think they just carry themselves a little better since going through the program. They walk around, their shoulders are up, and they're really feeling proud about their accomplishment and being in housekeeping. And that hasn't always been, we've had, not that we as a company have ever felt or treated our housekeepers less than, but there's been that feeling sometimes for housekeeping in particular that they tend to be minimum wage jobs. And so having gone through an apprenticeship and seeing, especially, and actually the COVID has brought that to light, that it's a super valuable, super appreciated career path. And they're feeling it. They're feeling good about themselves. So we're excited that that's part of what went on. So we did develop the program. There's a lot of safety in it. Of course, learning about the chemicals and things like that, first aid, all the accident prevention. That's a big part of housekeeping. We also, like I said, in our particular circumstance, we're able to give them experience in building cleaning and then hotel cleaning, which is a little different. They've taken a turn on all shifts. They've worked all the shifts. They've worked as housemen in the hotel part, so getting things for guests in the middle of the night, fixing things in the middle of the night. So they've got a really well-rounded experience in housekeeping. and we can put them anywhere. And actually, partly because of the housekeeping program, we have changed our supervisors and are expanding that so that they are not just supervisor for one section. Like we, in the past, had a housekeeper supervisor for a hotel and one for the casino side. Now they can be on both sides. They can switch around, and we're actually cross-training them on the front desk in the hotel as well. So we're expanding what they can do at that level. And I know our apprentices will be valuable as part of that expansion of skills and moving up. I did want to share my screen if I can do that. I'm not sure I can.
You should be able to.
Where would that be? Oh, share screen. Oh. And, all right. So everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So here's an example of one of our apprentices that just graduated, Alan Mitchell. And not with Alan, not only do, you know, like I said, with all of ours, we had one girl and 3 guys, one female, 3 males, however you want to say it. Alan is participating in employee functions. He's coming to employee functions. He's active on our employee Facebook page, asking questions. He's more involved. And in the past, he wasn't involved at all. So, you know, just seeing that, there's those added other benefits that with apprenticeship program, you don't always know you're going to get, but definitely I've seen that with all of them. On your screen, you can see he earned over here on your right-hand side or left-hand side, the apprenticeship, housekeeping apprenticeship training badge. And we have badges they can earn through our training program. So he's COVID trained. He has 2 feather pads. Feather pad is kind of like a cop being good. So any supervisor can write out a feather pad. They're in triplicate. They're on little pads, and they can write one for any employee, recognizing something they did well, going above and beyond. He's earned 2 of those. And of course, the anti-harassment, you know, everybody has to take that one. But that's just an example. And certificates, the courses, all of these belts that you're seeing, yellow belt, purple belt, green belt, etc. Those are all management courses that he's taken online. There's the bloodborne pathogens, fire and evacuation. He's taken, of course, all the orientation. Our ATAP is our alcohol training. Typically, housekeeping doesn't take alcohol training. They don't serve alcohol, so it's not required through New York State. We did have all our apprentices take it. In the hotel in particular, alcohol issues can be a problem. So that's, we had them take that. So as you can see, they've had tons of courses. I'll just kind of scroll fast. Oh, here's some of the ones: orientation, hotel housekeeping at its best. They've also taken fraud prevention, all sorts of courses to gain their apprenticeship. And typically, a housekeeper would have to take the hazard communication, a few safety things, and of course, hazard anti-harassment and fire evacuation. They wouldn't have to take a lot of courses, and he has 870 points, which is a good number in our casino. So just wanted to show you an example of, you know, what that looks like on our side and what we keep track of. The other thing as a business is that we try to take a lot of pictures during their apprenticeship. and do a good report at the end. It helps us see where we've been and maybe think about what we would like to do differently or improve on. And also we turn it in and for apprenticeships. So does anybody have any questions?
Mary Ellen, I think I'm off mute. One thing that I neglected to mention, and you may be able to speak to actual numbers and how it worked for your housekeeping folks. So in addition to the on-the-job training and the related instruction, there's a wage issue that has to be complied with for every registered apprenticeship. I mean, you have to start at minimum wage, but the other thing is that you start somebody at a particular wage. There has to be what we call one wage progression throughout the course of their training program. So let's say in housekeeping, you have a 2,000-hour program. You could essentially say that at the completion of the 1,000th hour, that person would get, for instance, a 15 or 25-cent increase in pay. When they complete the 2,000th hour and that related instruction, they would then achieve or move to what we call journey worker pay, and that would be a raise in pay as well. So it's really one progression throughout the course. You could start at what's the minimum wage now? I don't, 11.80? Is it 12? I don't even know what. Let's say $15. You could start at 15, go to 15 and a quarter. Then when you're done, you could be at $16 an hour and considered a journey worker. So that progression is essential. Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
That is correct. And that's good incentive, like I said, especially when you start out with housekeeping jobs as minimum wage. The casino did raise our minimum wage to $15.02 an hour just yesterday. So we now match the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe's minimum wage of $15.02 an hour. So that was a bump up, but they still will be making more than that as part of their, because every other housekeeper will be making that now. They will be making more than that as part of their completing their apprenticeship.
And then just because it is also a carrot for employers, you don't have to pay somebody right off the rip as if they knew everything, right? That's the advantage too, right? So you're getting value from them learning on the job, but you don't have to pay them full wage from the beginning. So just wanted to make that. I apologize for not mentioning that earlier.
Oh, that's a great point, because that's a good incentive when you're talking about the program with people, because like I said, they did put a lot of work in, taking a lot of courses, and you know, what's in it for me, the WIFM.
I have a question, Mary Ellen, it's Julie. A lot of information I'm trying to meld through. So I see you have your own online training, and of course Best Western International has their own university. And just like you, housekeepers, there's certain courses, but they don't take as much as like the front desk or a manager would take.
Correct.
We have the same kind of criteria and courses too that they can definitely take and have track of that, which I assume goes over to the state to, I'm assuming the state has to certify that apprenticeship. I guess my question is, because you didn't use the SUNY, you used your own training program to follow on. So it looks like it's, how many weeks, I mean, I know it was COVID, but how many, I guess my confusion is, so they're living up in that area. So typically you would find somebody in the general area that lives there interested in the apprenticeship. And so it looks like it's about 2,000 hours if you break it down with the Appendix A from the Department of Labor, correct?
Correct.
So did they work full time? How did that look for you?
So yes, they did work full time, other than when we were all laid off, obviously. But we started in, I think we started in 2019. So they had already come through part of it before COVID hit. And then once housekeeping was brought back a month before we opened. So they came back with that group, and they were able to continue on. And a majority of our staff did not work full time throughout this last year. we were on a shared work program. So a lot of our staff has worked 24 hours a week or 32 max. But the housekeepers, actually all the housekeepers have worked 40 hours a week.
So you're looking at least probably a year to complete the program is what you strive for with
Yeah.
that. Is there a lot of, I guess, the documentation as far as, I'm sure that's on the state end too, is there's, you've got to give reports and paperwork along the way.
Yes.
Like, I do the internship with the HRT, the Hotel Restaurant Tourism Program here at SUNY Plattsburgh. I have for years. So there's paperwork and things that they have to do in order to get that that credit and things like that. So I'm assuming you have to do that along the way. So I guess how my question, because it's true, if you get somebody that wants to really do this apprenticeship program, I mean, they're obviously interested, as I'm finding being in this industry for over 25 years, that it's not, especially now, it's not an industry that people are moving towards anymore. The HRT program enrollment is down heavily. So we're struggling with how we're going to get, even with front desk. I mean, I need 2 front desk people right now, probably about 5 or 6 housekeepers. And so it's hard right now to get people excited about what we do. So that's what's kind of encouraging for me on this. But as far as
we need front desk people as well. So we're with you.
you know, because you find typically, like you said, a housekeeper is GED. If they're not, because the front desk is obviously a different level of understanding the computers, multitasking, dealing with difficult guests, etc. But being able to find somebody that's willing to put the work into this and all these certificates, you know, you may find someone that can move to the front desk. So it does not have to go through SUNY, or it does. The apprenticeship does go through one of the SUNY colleges, correct? To get the certification, or no? I guess I'm trying to figure out, the SUNY role is you can use their training or you can do your own with and get certification through DOL, correct?
Leaf.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to just take that? You want me to just
Yes.
take that quickly? Yeah, so the way Mary Ellen's, the way Akwesasne did it was they did what we consider in-house related instruction. And there's a form for that you send to us. We act as a liaison between Department of Labor and New York State Education Department. New York State Education Department is tasked in the law essentially with approving related instruction providers. My guess is that if you've got something called Best Western University, the threshold is probably already exceeded by what you're doing. It's more of a formality, but state ed will just look at the curriculum, make sure that whoever is doing the instructing has some skills in whatever they're teaching. And then I don't want to, you know, the whole SUNY side of it. There's a couple of things that you mentioned that are probably worth getting out there. One of them is that at present there is also a tax credit for businesses. So there's some additional literature that Sylvie and Gabrielle and Matt, everybody probably has, but we would definitely want to make sure you get. And if it's approximately a year for a housekeeper, you could conceivably, I mean, you have to have somebody who's working, I think, 35 hours a week, and they'd have to be on your payroll for X amount of months. But you could conceivably get a tax credit. I think the first year is $2,000. Mary Ellen or somebody else could correct me. But so there's some things that can defray, you know, costs or tax advantages. I'll let the SUNY folks speak to the SUNY funding issue, but there's the related instruction you can do in-house. There's a process for that. We have lots of sponsors who do in-house related instruction all over the state, and that's you know, it's a very straightforward process, and it's not a heavy lift, especially if you already have something in place. And then just one thing, the whole issue of full-time, you know, for years people have talked about a 2,000 hour year, you know, 2,000 hours of work as being full-time. Well, that's 50 hours at 40 hours a week, right? Or 50 weeks at 40 hours a week. Most people don't work that no matter what anyway. But the definition of an apprenticeship does not speak to the full-time or part-time nature in the regulations themselves. And so the tax credit may not, you may not be able to take advantage of it if you had people working 27 hours a week. But there's nothing in the law or the regulations that say an apprentice needs to work X number of hours. The fundamental thing is that the job needs to be learned. The tasks and skills need to be acquired on the job.
You know what, that's a good point, Leif, and maybe Matt, you can jump in, unless Julie, if you have additional questions, then we can just go to Matt, who can speak to the SUNY process, which is part of that.
Yeah, I have just one question.
Go ahead.
Where did the candidates come from? If I don't do the SUNY program, I'm assuming they come from you, Leif, for the DOL?
We don't. We have there are sections or departments, divisions in the Department of Labor that can assist you with matching job seekers to openings, but you essentially, let's say, I missed the title, but your group, your hotel conceivably would be the sponsor / employer. You are really responsible for finding who you want to enroll in the program. And there's ways we can match you with job seekers, but my office doesn't actually supply apprentices to sponsors. It is really the employer / sponsor driving the bus. And Mary Ellen could certainly speak to that much better than I could in terms of how they onboard or how they recruit, because that's the word we use. You recruit people for the apprenticeship. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Mary Ellen.
We took existing employees and put it out to all our existing housekeepers. And our thought process is, if we can move up the ones we have and go through this successfully, it will become a recruiting tool for us, that possibly we'd be able to get new ones just coming in who would want to be hired by us for the program. So that was, like I said, we started in 2019. That was our initial thought process. Let's reward and take care of the people who've been working with us, some for many years, and give them the credentials they deserve, and then use this program to attract future housekeepers.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. So if you don't, does that satisfy you, Julie, as far as your question? Perfect. So then we can move on to Matt, who can talk about how it works with SUNY and the different programs that they have.
Sure, thank you, Sylvie. Can everyone see my screen now? Great. Mary Ellen, I just wanted to mention that I really liked your badge system and your system of record keeping for students' accomplishments. I think that's a really neat system, and it lets the apprentices see where they are, where they stand, and where they're going. So I applaud you for that. We wanted to show you the MVCC, Mohawk Valley Community College, which is based in Utica, New York, works in conjunction with SUNY Apprenticeship Program through SUNY system in Albany and the New York State Department of Labor. And what has happened is we've been allotted a grant through the New York State that funnels through SUNY system and then goes down to each of the community colleges throughout the state. And this shows each green bubble is one of the community colleges throughout the state, one of each 30 colleges. The red star in the center is Utica, New York, and the yellow star is North Country. Just to give you kind of an idea of who we work with, where they're located, and that we do administer this program throughout the state. Julie, I wanted to mention that we as well do not have resources in our office to supply individuals for the program. That's probably, I talk to businesses every day, and that's the #1 question we get is, where are the people? Where are the candidates? Where are the people that want to go to work? And unfortunately, we wish we could make those connections, but once an employer identifies who's going to be in the program, we can provide funding. And what we also find is that incumbent workers usually make the best apprentices because the employer knows the individual. If you bring someone in off the street and you put them into a 4-year apprenticeship program, sometimes you don't know who you're investing in. But if you have an individual that's been with you for a year or two, they're a great worker, they show up to work every day on time, they don't call in all the time, maybe they're the ones worth investing in the apprenticeship. And then as Mary Ellen said, you know, you can you create a pipeline now of openings in the entry level position, and then bring a new person on. And then once they're there a while, you can see if they're interested. So our goal at SUNY is to try to increase apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, registered apprenticeships through DOL by about 3,200 individuals by partnering with all of the colleges. So as Leaf mentioned, there's the SUNY Empire, or not the SUNY, excuse me, the DOL Empire State Apprenticeship Tax Credit. And in the first year of an apprenticeship, that is $2,000. The second year is $3,000, third is $4,000, and fourth year is $5,000. So with a one-year apprenticeship, you'd be looking at a $2,000 tax credit per individual. That number goes up if the individual is identified as a at-risk youth. And I can share some documentation that shows what constitutes an at-risk person. There only needs to be one criteria met to meet that. And actually, when I'm done with this presentation, I'll bring up that sheet just so you can see it. And I know Mary Ellen mentioned that there's a lot of individuals with a high school diploma or a DED, and perhaps those individuals may qualify for a higher tax credit. So the SUNY Apprenticeship Fund can provide funding for your related instruction, or what is considered college classes, or the classes can be taken at any third-party related instruction provider. So if you have an in-house class, if you had, like, let's just say Mary Ellen's housekeeping school, we wouldn't be able to pay for that. You can still use that as your RI provider and to get that education, but our funding is only good for SUNY schools. So if you identify a class, let's say Hospitality 101 at North Country, I don't know if that's a class, but say it was, we can provide funding for tuition, fees, and books for that course. It will apply towards your related instruction. You'll check that off the list. And your company never sees a bill for that, as well as the individuals, the apprentices will never receive a bill, a college tuition bill. For related instruction of registered apprentices, we have up to $5,000 per apprentice to pay for related instruction. Like I say, as long as they attend a SUNY college. There's also $500 per person for a pre-apprenticeship program. So what this means is, if you have an individual that you've identified that might be a good fit for apprenticeship, but they might not have the basic skills or requirements to enter the apprenticeship. Maybe there's some barriers to entering. Maybe they've been out of school for 20 years and they're like, you know, I'm not ready for a math class. It's scaring the heck out of me. I'm nervous. I don't want to take a math class. A pre-apprenticeship class could be a basic entry level, like remedial math, just kind of easing someone into going back to school. If there's a communication barrier, you could have an English as a second language class. You could have a communication class, whatever you identify as a course that may help bump someone's skills up to the level where they can now enter an apprenticeship and be confident taking the related instruction. So if you identify a pre-apprenticeship opportunity, we can provide $500 to pay for a pre-apprenticeship class. And then this kind of talks about what's involved, the company's responsibility for this part of it. So the company would register as an approved registered, or excuse me, they would register with a registered apprenticeship program. So that means you're going to talk to New York State Department of Labor, say, I would like to be a sponsor. You're going to go through their paperwork. Now that you're a registered sponsor, your employee begins on-the-job training, and you're going to communicate with one of your SUNY community colleges and say, look, we're ready for our apprentice to attend class. We can help you identify which classes are the best fit. Once you identify a class, let's say it's a communications class or a math class, we help you get signed up. Any of the community colleges can sign your individual up for that class, and that's it. As long as the courses count towards the related instruction. So if you're a housekeeping trade, maybe you need a communications class. And if you wanted them to take a 17th century poetry class, that doesn't quite fit. It's not part of the Appendix B related instruction. So we'd say, well, we're not really going to pay for that class, but we will pay for the communications. So you want to kind of keep track of which classes your apprentice is taking. But as I say, the tuition is all taken care of in-house. SUNY system provides the funding to each of the community colleges. We pay for the tuition, fees, and books. The company won't see a bill, neither will the apprentice. And a lot of grants are a reimbursement process. So you would have to pay tuition. The grant would reimburse you. Our grant doesn't work that way. It's just a direct payment. And real quick, I would like to just bring up that Empire State Apprenticeship Tax Credit so you can at least see it. I think a visual helps. And then I will send it out to everyone after. Where is it? All right, can everyone see that? Great. So this is from the Department of Labor, and this shows apprenticeship tax credits for the 5 years of apprenticeship. And then we have what is a disadvantaged youth? So here are some criteria. As long as your individual meets one of these, you will be eligible for this amount of tax credit. So you can see where it jumps up quite significantly in the first year from 2,000 to 5,000. And stop sharing. So if you can take advantage of this opportunity, it's great. We have the money, it's there for you to use. We would just like to see you succeed in your apprenticeship program. Companies need to make the company for them, or make the program work for them. And it's not cookie cutter. What works for Mary Ellen might not work for Julie or Mallory. I believe the DOL allows a little bit of customization with the Appendix A, if I'm correct. They allow you to kind of move topics around or add or subtract. I think that's the same way with related instruction. So the money's there. If you would like to use SUNY funding, we'd be glad to do that. That's what it's for, is to help companies, small, mid-sized companies succeed. And if you have any questions, just please let us know. I'll give you all our contact information, and we're always here to help. So.
Thanks, Matt. I just want to emphasize that unfortunately North Country Community College and Clinton Community College were not able to meet with us today, but I did get an email from Sarah Maroon at North Country, and this kind of goes hand in hand with Clinton Community College. There's not a specific hospitality training in those two SUNY schools. However, they do have an entrepreneurial certificate program that can be used for those, for the type of apprenticeship we're talking about today. And then specific to North Country also, there's a small business management and Microsoft Office suite training that can be utilized when you're putting together your apprenticeship program. So definitely there's some opportunities for partnering with our local educators and then be able to tap into what Matt was talking about specifically with those type of credentials. The other thing too I want to kind of mention is Julie, looking at, trying to find employees. I know that, and unfortunately, you're not the only one, as Mary Ellen said, they are as well, and so is every other industry. But Leif mentioned that there's some things that the Department of Labor can accomplish for you, and that's through the business services that they offer. We do have a representative here that works in business services for the Department of Labor at the One Worksource Center. I'm more than happy to put you in contact with her. Her name is Melissa Boretsky, and even if you're looking outside the immediate area, she has her counterpart, Michael Gell, in at the Franklin County One Worksource Center too, that kind of like oversees that area of our region. But additionally, and I'm going to mention that because we are creating with both FEH BOCES in Malone and CV Tech in Plattsburgh, a Meet the Employer series so that students in our area can meet employers and understand a little bit the type of positions that are available with them. So that might be something else to get on the list with us for, so that we can give you some exposure into the schools so that, not everyone has like a clear career pathway, and there might be something interesting that to them, that they can find out from you, and then hopefully make an application, and then through the career pathway opportunities in the hotel industry kind of, become a good employee for you. So Gabrielle, if you don't mind making a note of that so that we can put Julie's on the list for potential.
Already, I know Melissa. I've worked with her for years.
Okay.
So yeah, I know Melissa. So I do that already, and I would definitely be interested in the CV Tech being, there. And I think that's definitely I tried doing I've been delving into the RAMP program, and that hasn't been very successful. But I think reaching them a little earlier, maybe, their senior year or something, and start getting them thinking of an industry, I think would be helpful. So.
Perfect. So we'll definitely put you on our list. And then the other thing too, we're going to be working on is internally with our own One WorkSource, One WorkSource Center staff to do the same kind of thing, but internally. So me, the employer, so that our staff understand it's, because it's always the same thing. You create your network and you utilize the same kind of employers, but there's so many more other opportunities. And so we want to make sure everyone understand a little bit the type of choices that our clients may have. So I will add that. I'll add you onto our list as well. And Mallory, feel free to let us know too if you guys want to be on the list. But yeah, so those are the type of things we can help out with. The other thing too, and that's more again an internal, we do have a newsletter that goes out to anybody we can send it to, and that doesn't drop off after a while, but we do post some employment opportunities in our newsletter as well as on our Facebook page, and then that can be shared as well. So feel free to send that to us as as you have opportunities. So we'll be more than happy to share them with anybody that we can, so that we can help you achieve your goal in finding good people. So,
and I want to mention that Dan Paris, who was supposed to be here today, wasn't unable to. He has been just amazing. He's held our hand through all of our apprenticeship programs. You can send him things like, does this look right? Am I going in the right direction? Do I have this filled out correctly? Just amazing. Definitely held our hand through everything. And so great resource for you to get going on apprenticeship program.
And is it okay? So is it okay? All right. I sometimes I can unmute myself, sometimes I can't. So, and yes, and right along with that, not only is Dan great, he texted me because he wasn't able to attend, but one thing I did forget to mention, and I want to make sure that everybody gets this as well, is that we do have a new request. I think it's a request for proposals at this point. I don't speak grant language, but I think it's an RFP, but it's geared exactly towards the type of organization that the hospitality industry is potentially rife with, right? A hospitality and tourism association for the North Country, or for, greater New York City, whatever. I'll get that document to you, but there's a way to sort of structure an apprenticeship program that would almost allow you to use something like an association as an intermediary who would help you run your program. And there's all sorts of financial incentives attached to that too. So that may depend on, how long-term you want to look at this, or, how long you want to take to get something up and running. But we've had grant opportunities in addition to the SUNY and the apprenticeship tax credit that have assisted tremendously with folks that never thought about using apprenticeship before, and now have programs that are, up and running and completing apprentices, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have that fact sheet, even if you do, I'll send it to the group. And I think Matt mentioned the apprenticeship tax credit fact sheet. So I'll send everything to the group, and anything you need. Dan Paris, as Mary Ellen said, is available all the time. I can send you his email and telephone number. And he did apologize again for not being able to attend. He really, he usually goes so far as filling out a mock application, so it looks even less daunting when he meets with you, because you see exactly what you need to fill out. And that's one thing that people always like to say is a reason they don't want to talk to us. That should be the one reason that you never let get in the way of discussing apprenticeship with us. Dan is an acolyte for this program, as am I. Anything that we can do, whenever you need to reach out to us, we're available, and we'll get contact information and documents to you. So again, thanks.
And that's a great point, Leif, that I want to reiterate, is the fact that although you're dealing with a state agency, although you're dealing with a program within a state agency, the connotation is, of course, that it's going to be bureaucratic and things like that. But really, Leif and Dan and their team and the SUNY team kind of tried to take that out of the way so that you as a business leader can really do this type of implementation rather simply. And so that's why we're supporting these efforts, because obviously we don't want to add to your burden, and then that's really technically not going to be too much of a burden. And Mary Ellen, you might want to speak to that, given the fact that you've had some experience. But anyway, I just want to reiterate Leif's point on that.
Sylvia, if I could just please mention, I forgot, for the Appendix B, the New York State Department of Labor likes to see 144 hours of related instruction per year. And what that relates to is either 144 clock hours of instruction. If you're going through a third-party provider, they usually do clock hours. For our credit courses, we consider 3 credit hour course, 72 hours. So if you were to take a 3 credit hour course in the fall and 1 3 credit course in the spring, you would meet the 144 hours of required instruction. Now, with a 2,000 hour trade, that's a short 1-year program. You're looking at 2 3 credit classes, and that would suffice. But if it was me, I would put in for the SUNY grant. And the reason is you get $5,000. And let's say within that year, you spend $2,000. That apprentice still has $3,000 in their account. And even though they graduate with a journey worker card, they have $3,000 in their fund to spend at SUNY. So they can still take classes after they complete the program. And the money's there for them to use. They can apply it towards a certificate or a degree. So I just wanted to mention that the money is available. What I would suggest is contact the community college that you would like to send your apprentice to, and they can help you with the application process for the grant money. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. We've passed the hour. I want to be mindful of everybody's time, so I'd like to just open it up at this point for last questions before we conclude.
I do have a question. Have you seen, I know like with COVID and everything, healthcare facilities have been kind of hit hard, and we have some very tricky New York State Department of Health regulations, even with hiring standards and stuff like that. Have you seen apprenticeships for positions like this succeed in a healthcare environment?
You mean housekeeping in healthcare?
Yeah.
Okay. Right now we don't have anybody, except I think Mary Ellen is like this. She's the torchbearer, right? I think she's got the only housekeeping program in the state presently. But you know, I would think part of what you'll see, Mallory, on the outline is it's the way I like to talk about training outlines is they're not the Cliff's Notes, but they're not War and Peace. So you look at it, you get a general sense of all the stuff that is covered, and there's like you can infer a lot from what's already on there that would be very applicable to the changed environment that COVID has presented, right? So, and as Matt alluded to, we can adjust certain elements of that training outline. I don't want to get into the weeds of, you know, the 72 different tasks that are listed on there. That's not what we ask people to track, right? We ask people to track the hours in the category, not every, you know, 1 through 9 underneath. But that's part of a lengthier conversation. But this could certainly be used by anybody. That parenthetic of commercial, residential, industrial. You know, there's no reason to not consider it for a healthcare setting.
That's a good point, Mallory. Thank you. Any other question, Julie?
Quickly, an appendix B, I guess, I'm just wrapping my head around, they don't have to take college courses. I mean, it's a great opportunity, obviously, to offer that to them, to do that, but they don't have to. The program can be done typically through all my training in the university and things like that, correct? 'Cause I see like basic math, things like that. They don't have to. Am I correct in that analysis?
Yeah, yeah, and yes, you are. One thing too, though, and I'm not sure, Matt could probably speak to this. We do have some colleges that offer coursework, you know, that non-matriculated coursework, right? So it could touch on a portion of the related instruction. I don't know how it works with the SUNY money, but you're exactly right, Julie. You don't have to take. That's why it's a list of topics as opposed to course prefixes and numbers, right? It gives a lot more flexibility to sponsors. You got to cover the topic, but not necessarily in a, you know, as a matriculated student in a college course, et cetera.
Julie, for our past apprenticeships, like I said, we had electrical, HVAC. We used BOCES at that time. Going forward, we would probably use the college system with the money that's available. And for our housekeeping, we did do that all internally. But we are looking at a possible table game supervisor apprenticeship, which does not exist. So I'm looking toward possibly creating that because I think it'd be really valuable. It's one of the careers in gaming that you really do learn from the bottom up. You can't be a supervisor at a factory and jump in and be a table game supervisor. It doesn't work that way. So it's perfect for apprenticeship. And I would definitely be including SUNY training in that one with the availability of it.
Perfect.
Yeah, and just real quick, because I got to say it, anything that you're thinking you have a workforce need for in the hospitality industry is potentially something to talk about having an apprenticeship for, whether it's a physical plant, whether it's front desk, you name it. The sky's the limit right now, which is a great place to be. You know, it used to be an apprenticeship was something that was only 4 years long, and it was only something that you had to commit vast amounts of resources to. If you want to develop your workforce and have a credential at the end with value, it's the route to go. So we're open to discussing any potential for new occupations in housekeeping, whatever they may be.
Yeah, definitely. I would see leave the front desk because I've never had issues hiring front desk, but the past several years especially, and I could see that definitely being a good apprenticeship because there's computer skills and other things too there, customer relations skills, different things. So that's just, things have changed a lot, especially during COVID, but I saw things starting to shift prior to that too. So I think that has some merit, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I'll look for a couple of things too, Julie, that I can try and get to you that, you know, just to give you a sense of, I think it could be something as broad as customer service representative that you could essentially adopt, and then your front desk people could do that. So there's lots, again, you know, you can tell I get excited about talking about this stuff, which makes me odd, but there's lots of opportunities. Anything that you can think of is worth having a conversation about. So thank you.
I just want to mention we are having a graduation ceremony for our apprentices. We have at the casino something called the ACE Awards, Akwesasne Casino Excellence, ACE. And they're going to get a mug with the ACE Award logo on it. They're going to get certificates. We're going to give them a certificate for dinner at one of our nicer restaurants. So we're going to have an actual ceremony. We're hoping to do Facebook Live so that it can go on for all our other employees to see and be proud of the ones who've gone through the program.
That sounds excited, actually, and I think that's probably going to help generate interest amongst other people within your organization as well to kind of join the program. But It's a little bit past our time, so if there's no other questions, I think we'll do a conclusion, and we will follow up with some of the documents that we're presenting today. And we have recorded the session, so we will send you the recording just in case you want to refer back to what was discussed. If you are looking for somebody's contact information, feel free to reach out to us if you can't find it. We'll be more than happy to share that. We will share everybody's contact, whether they were here today or they couldn't be with us today, so that you have a direct access to some expertise as well. So anything else before we conclude? Okay, so I appreciate your time. This has been a really, really good conversation, and I hope that we can assist you into pursuing an apprenticeship. And I know that Mary Ellen would be more than happy to help you out from the business perspective as well. And then thanks again, and thanks for being with us today. You have a great day.